The wild hogs have grown far too bold, plain, and simple. They no longer sneak through the shadows or strike only at night. Now they march right into open fields, trample through barns, tear up irrigation lines, and root through gardens like they own the place. It's not just destruction anymore, it's defiance. And we've had enough. We can't just sit back and watch while they turn years of hard work into waste. We can't keep standing on the sidelines while fences fall, crops disappear, and families suffer the loss. They're not afraid of people, not afraid of dogs, not afraid of noise or lights. They've gotten used to getting away with it. But that ends here. We've strapped our boots on, loaded our gear, trained our dogs. We've made up our minds. If the hogs want to test how far they can go, they're about to find out how far we're willing to push back. Because we're not watching anymore, we're fighting back. We're putting together our strongest team yet because this time, we're not just going out to hunt, we're going out to confront a real, growing threat. These wild hogs have gotten more aggressive, more unpredictable, and more destructive than ever before. So, we're stepping up. Every man in the group is experienced. These aren't weekend hunters. These are seasoned trackers, sharpshooters, and dog handlers who faced down charging boars and walked out standing. Our dogs? The best we've got. Fast, fearless, and trained to move as one with us, no hesitation, no fear. We've got eyes on the areas where the hogs hit hardest, mapped every trail, tracked every herd. This isn't some random run into the woods. This is a coordinated strike. Radios are synced. Rifles are zeroed in. Traps are ready. Every movement planned, every position covered. We're not walking into this fight unprepared. We're coming in ready with everything we've got. And if the hogs want to test their strength, they'll find out exactly what we're made of. Because this time, we're not just hunting, we're taking back the land. Today was one of those rare, lucky days where everything went right. From the moment we entered the woods, the signs were fresh. The dogs picked up strong scent trails early on, and we followed fast, cutting through the brush with purpose. It wasn't long before we made contact. One hog after another showed up, and we were ready every time. The shots were clean, the teamwork was tight, and the dogs were sharp and focused like never before. We moved like a unit, calling out positions, circling around, pushing the hogs into open ground where we could take them down clean. It was like the entire forest opened up in our favor. No injuries, no chaos, just quick decisions and solid results. Before noon, we'd already taken down more hogs than we usually do in a full day. Each body we dragged out of the woods felt like one who will win it for us, but for the people whose land we were protecting. It's not always like this. Some days are slow, some are dangerous. But today was ours, and we made the most of it. Out on the wide open fields under the fading light of day, we saw them dozens of dark shapes moving through the crops, wild hogs, big ones. Their shadows stretched across the rows like a creeping storm. They were bold, digging, rooting, tearing without a care, as if the land belonged to them. But tonight, we were ready. We moved into position, slow and silent, rifles in hand, dogs on alert. The scent was strong, the ground torn fresh. This was no scattered herd, this was a full invasion. But we weren't backing down. Not now. Every step forward was a promise. A promise to the farmers who had worked these fields with their bare hands. To the families who had been losing sleep, wondering if their crops would still be there come morning. We've seen the heartbreak, we've seen the damage, and we've made it our mission to stop it. With each hog we bring down, we get closer to peace, closer to quiet nights, closer to the day when no farmer has to wake to a field in ruins. Tonight, we hunt with purpose, and we won't stop until the last shadow disappears. Out on the wide, open fields, under the fading light of day, we saw them dozens of dark shapes moving through the crops. Wild hogs, big ones. Their shadows stretched across the rows like a creeping storm. They were bold, digging, rooting, tearing without a care, as if the land belonged to them. But tonight, we were ready. We moved into position, slow and silent, rifles in hand, dogs on alert. The scent was strong, the ground torn fresh. This was no scattered herd, this was a full invasion. But we weren't backing down. Not now. Every step forward was a promise to the farmers who had worked these fields with their bare hands, to the families who had been losing sleep, wondering if their crops would still be there come morning. We've seen the heartbreak, we've seen the damage, and we've made it our mission to stop it. With each hog we bring down, we get closer to peace, closer to quiet nights, closer to the day when no farmer has to wake to a field in ruins. Tonight, we hunt with purpose, and we won't stop until the last shadow disappears. They're no longer confined to remote forests or rural backlands. Today, invasive wild hogs, also known as feral swinehave, spread across the United States, from the fertile farmlands of Texas to the quiet suburbs of Georgia. With explosive reproduction rates, unmatched adaptability, and a natural instinct for destruction, they've become one of the greatest ecological threats modern American agriculture has ever faced. Now numbering over 6 million and rampaging across more than 40 states, these animals don't just tear up crops, uproot soil, and devastate native ecosystems. They boldly push into cities, rummaging through garbage, threatening pets, and even causing serious traffic accidents. What used to sound like scenes from a sci-fi movie, packs of hogs storming highways or tearing up golf courses in broad daylight, hogs now become part of American reality. So, what's really happening? How did a species once introduced for sport hunting spiral out of control and become public enemy number one for farmers and conservationists alike? And what's being done or not being done to stop this silent invasion? Join us as we dive into the world of high-stakes hunts, where farmers take up arms, trappers deploy drones, and entire ecosystems fight to survive against the most aggressive invader America has ever known, the wild hog. As the first rays of dawn pierce through the morning fog, We edge closer to the fielder once thriving patch of farmland, now on the brink of devastation. From a distance, the ground seems to ripple, but it's not the wind, it's them. A massive sounder of wild hog seasonally numbering in the hundreds moves like a wave of destruction, rooting, digging, trampling everything in sight. Corn stalks lie shredded. Irrigation lines are torn to pieces. Fresh seedlings, carefully planted just weeks ago, are gone without a trace. This isn't just crop loss, it's livelihood turned to chaos. Every minute we hesitate, the damage multiplies. There's no time for fences or warnings. These hogs aren't afraid of humans anymore. They've adapted, they've learned, and they've grown bold. If we don't act now, the entire field will be unsalvageable by the end of the day. Armed with rifles, thermal scopes, and the hard-earned lessons of previous encounters, we press forward with grim determination. The plan is quick and coordinated. Push them toward the tree line, cut off their escape routes, and neutralize as many as possible before they scatter. A single sow can birth a dozen piglets twice a year. Letting even a small group escape means they'll be back, and next time, they'll bring more. The stakes are more than just crops. These feral swine threaten the delicate balance of entire ecosystems, driving out native species, contaminating water sources, and spreading disease to both livestock and wildlife. But for the farmer standing beside me, rifle in hand and jaw clenched tight, it's personal. This is his land, his fight, and today, we take it back one hog at a time. After clearing the first field, we regroup and shift our attention to a neighboring area the locals call the wallow zone. It's a low-lying stretch of land near a dried creek bed, overgrown with brush and riddled with trails carved out by countless hooves over time. As we approach, the air gets heavier, still thick with the pungent smell of mud, musk, and destruction. Then we see them, towering figures among the shadow's wild hogs of staggering size. These aren't the average 100-pounders. These are giants. Some easily push over 300 pounds, their massive frames covered in coarse bristles, their tusks like curved daggers catching the light. One of them turns its head, locking eyes with us for a moment. No fear, no hesitation, just raw, wild defiance. These are the elder boars, the smart ones, the survivors leaders of their packs, and the hardest to bring down. It's no longer just about saving crops now. These massive hogs are capable of flipping over feeders, ripping through wooden fences, even injuring livestock or people if provoked. Every rancher in the area has a story. A prized calf gutted by tusks, a family dog never seen again, a fence torn down overnight. The presence of these beasts signals more than damage its dominance. To reclaim this land, we need more than firepower. We need precision, patience, and respect for the creature's cunning. We fan out, moving silently through the underbrush, every step measured, every sound weighed. This isn't just a hunt, it's a standoff. One where experience meets instinct, and where the outcome will determine who controls this patch of wild ground by sunrise. With the morning sun climbing higher and the adrenaline still coursing through our veins, we press onward to the next hot Spokane open patch of land bordering a pine thicket. This area had been hit hard just days ago, its soil still scarred from the hooves and snouts of a rampaging sounder, but something's changed. The usual chaos is quieter now. Tracks are fewer, the ground less torn. It doesn't take long to realize the truth. The aggressive herd that once dominated this zone has been weakened significantly. Days of coordinated pressure, trapping, and relentless pursuit have taken their toll. The numbers have dropped. The larger boars are gone or in hiding. What remains is a scattered cluster of smaller, wearier, pit-cautious, jumpy, less willing to engage. Even the undergrowth shows signs of abandonment. Mud holes have dried. Game trails once wide and trampled now look barely used. Still, we don't let our guard down. A wounded animal can be more dangerous than a strong one, and a fragmented sounder, though smaller, is still capable of wrecking a field in hours. We scan the perimeter using thermal scopes, marking heat signatures in the brush. Sure enough, a few silhouettes flicker into view thin, fast-moving, nervous. These hogs are on the run, disorienting, unsure where safety lies. That hesitation is our window. We tighten the perimeter, moving with purpose but without haste. This isn't about brute force anymore. It's about control. Every successful push here means fewer hogs regrouping elsewhere. Every trap sprung is a step closer to restoration not just of crops, but of balance. And as silence slowly returns to the edge of the woods, we know this leg of the fight is nearly won. But the war, it's far from over. As the sun begins its slow descent behind the tree line, casting long amber shadows across the land, we reach the final point of our hunt. This last location lies at the edge of an abandoned orchard, silent, forgotten, and half swallowed by wilderness. It's the kind of place where nature takes back what was once hers, and where feral hogs thrive in the absence of watchful eyes. The ground here is softer, still damp from last week's rains, pocked with fresh hoof prints and wallows that steam faintly in the cooling air. We move with quiet precision, the sounds of footsteps muted by layers of leaves and pine needles. The adrenaline has ebbed, replaced now by a steady focused one, forged through hours of tracking, watching, and reacting. This spot isn't about numbers, it's about closure. Signs suggest a splinter group from earlier in the day has taken refuge here, perhaps 6 or 7 hogs, likely younger, possibly injured or shaken. We spread out, flanking both sides of a narrow ravine. Then a rustle, not loud but deliberate, a snort followed by the crack of a branch underfoot. And then they appear smaller than the giants from earlier, but fast, determined, wild. The chase is brief. No panic, no chaos, just clean, deliberate engagement. 2 are caught in a cornered funnel. A third bolts, but is quickly intercepted near a fence line. When the last echoing shot fades into the trees, a deep quiet returns. Not silence born of stillness, but of accomplishment. We regroup under the fading sky, breaths fogging lightly in the cool dusk air. Tired, yes, but with a sense of victory that runs deeper than tallying numbers. This isn't just about today's hunt. It's about pushing back the tide, protecting what feeds families, defending the land. And for now, at least in this stretch of country, the balance has tipped back, if only slightly, in our favor. Just when it felt like the hunt had ended, when the dust had settled and the land began to breathe again, we realized our job was far from over. The truth was hard to ignore. The sheer number of wild hogs in the area had reached a tipping point. For every group we pushed back, another crept in under the cover of darkness. The farmers, exhausted and anxious, looked to us not with relief, but with pleading eyes. They knew, just as we did, that the real threat comes at night. That's when the hogs are boldest. That's when they surge into fields like shadows with teeth, tearing through crops and toppling fences, emboldened by the cloak of the dark. And so, we stayed. We swapped out gear, reloaded, and prepped for the night hunt. Thermal optics replaced scopes, flashlights were strapped to barrels, radios checked. The air cooled quickly as dusk turned to full night and the landscape transformed into a battlefield of silence and anticipation. Then the chaos returned. From the woods came a chorus of low grunts and heavy footfalls. Dozens of hogs fast, aggressive, fearless poured out into open fields, sensing no human presence. But we were there, waiting. What followed was hours of calculated pursuit, silent signals, quick movements, pulses pounding with each burst of action. One by one, the hogs felt no panic, no waste, just precision. By the time the moon hit its highest point in the sky, the fields were still again. The last sounder had been routed. The threat, for now, neutralized. When dawn broke, it wasn't just the landscape that felt changed, it was the people. The farmers stood at their porches, some with coffee in hand, others just staring quietly across the land that was theirs once more. For the first time in weeks, they would sleep soundly without waking to the sound of snorting beasts or crunching hooves. The night had been long, but the message was clear. This land would not be surrendered, not while we still stood guard. Across the vast plains of Texas, where golden rows of corn once stretched endlessly beneath the open sky, a silent crisis is unfolding. Thousands of acres of farmland, carefully tilled, planted, and nurtured by hardworking families, are now being ravaged by wild hogs. These animals don't come one or two at a time. They arrive in groups, sometimes dozens strong, under the cover of darkness, moving like a tide across the fields. By morning, the damage is staggering. Corn stalks snapped in half, irrigation lines chewed through, entire sections of crops uprooted and wasted. For many Texas farmers, this isn't just frustrating, it's devastating. These are not corporate farms with deep pockets and insurance cushions. These are generational lands, passed down from parent to child, where every ear of corn represents effort, hope, and survival. The scale of destruction is hard to comprehend until you see it up close. A single sounder of feral hogs can destroy an entire acre in one night. Multiply that by the thousands of sounders roaming freely across the state, and the result is a level of agricultural loss that no one can fully stop, only try to manage. Farmers are losing not just profits, but time, stability, and peace of mind. Every night brings the risk of another raid, another field gone to waste. In Texas, this isn't just an inconvenience, it's a crisis. Local authorities, wildlife experts, and even federal programs have been mobilized. But the problem continues to outpace the solutions. Drones, traps, helicopters, and night patrols have all been deployed, yet the hogs keep coming. They're smart, they adapt quickly, and they reproduce at an alarming rate. For now, the only constant is this. Every night, across thousands of cornfields, the battle rages on. And for the farmers standing guard over their land, the fight to protect their crops and their way of life is far from over. We can't afford to wait any longer. The time for hesitation has passed. Out here, in the heart of farming country, every hour of inaction costs real lives. Not human lives, but the lives of crops, livestock, ecosystems, and the fragile hopes of hardworking families who depend on their land to survive. For too long, the wild hog crisis has grown in the shadows, underestimated, misunderstood, and, in some cases, ignored. But now, with herds tearing through fields by the hundreds and losses mounting by the day, one truth has become crystal clear. Hunting isn't optional, it's essential. It's not about sport or pride. It's about protecting homes, feeding families, and preserving the land itself. Each moment we delay gives the hogs an edge. They move quickly, breed faster, and learn from every mistake we make. While we debate, they strike. While we rest, they regroup. They destroy crops worth thousands of dollars in a single night, tear through fences meant to protect cattle, and leave behind a path of destruction that takes weeks, sometimes months, to recover from. For the farmers, it's not just frustrating, it's heartbreaking. These aren't abstract statistics on a spreadsheet. These are real people, with real bills and real mouths to feed. And when a season's worth of work is trampled under the hooves of an invasive species, the damage is more than physical, it's emotional, generational. That's why we hunt. That's why we go out night after night, even when we're tired, even when the odds feel overwhelming, because someone has to draw the line. Someone has to say enough. The farmers can't do it alone, and neither can the government. But together with determination, strategy, and unwavering urgency, we can push back. We can protect what's left, and we must act now. Because every minute we wait, another field is lost. And for the people who live off this land, there's no backup plan. There's only the land they love and the wild fight to save it. These wild hogs aren't just strong, they're smart. In fact, their intelligence is one of the most frustrating and dangerous traits we face out in the field. Earlier today, we chased a sounder across open farmland, thinking we had the upper hand. But they didn't panic. They didn't scatter blindly like some wild animals do. Instead, they led us deliberately into the dense edge of a nearby forest, a place they clearly knew well. Once inside the tree line, everything changed. The terrain shifted from flat and open to rugged and shadowy. Thick underbrush concealed trails, tree roots twisted like traps beneath our feet, and visibility dropped to just a few yards ahead. And somewhere in that tangled chaos, they vanished. We scanned the area, listening closely. Not a twig snapped, not a grunt sounded. It was as if they had melted into the woods. These hogs weren't fleeing in fear, they were executing a plan. This is what makes them so hard to control. They use cover to their advantage. They double back, hide in shallow depressions, or lie completely still under brush piles, waiting for the danger to pass. Their camouflage is almost perfect in woodland terrain, and when you're deep in the trees, every movement, every breath must be calculated. One wrong step, and they'll bolt or worse, charge. We press deeper, slowly, watching for the smallest signs. Freshly turned soil, broken branches, the faint scent of musk in the air. The forest was silent, but heavy with tension. These hogs had made this place their fortress, and we just entered on their terms. But we couldn't back down. Not now, not with so much at stake. The longer they hid, the more likely they'd return to the fields by nightfall. And so we continued step by cautious step, knowing full well that to outsmart creatures this clever, we had to be even more patient, even more determined. The hunt had become a game of wits, and the forest, it was their chessboard. As the blades roared to life and the machine lifted off, the entire landscape unfolded beneath us: cornfields, woodlots, open pastures, and the dark scars left by hog destruction. Within minutes, we spotted them. A large sounder moving through a clearing, oblivious to our presence above. From up here, their patterns were clear. They grouped tight, rushed forward in bursts, then froze in cover, thinking they were invisible. The thermal imaging and sharp eyes from the air revealed every tactic they used. And now, we had the advantage. Coordinated with teams on the ground, the aerial effort became a game changer. We herded them toward waiting traps or cut off escape routes entirely. Each pass of the chopper scattered the hogs into more vulnerable positions. Shots were taken with precision, quick, humane, and effective. It was the kind of efficiency we rarely achieve on foot. In just a few hours, we cleared more territory than we could in days by land. On another day, new sun, same mission, we gathered once again to hunt. This time, our numbers had grown. Word had spread through nearby counties, and more people showed up. Seasoned hunters, local ranchers, young men eager to protect their land, and even a few retired veterans who knew their way around a rifle better than most. It was a sight to behold dozens of trucks lined up at the edge of the property, engines still ticking warm, men and women unloading gear, checking optics, passing around radios, sharing maps marked with hog trails and fresh sightings. What started weeks ago as a handful of volunteers had now become a well-oiled unit with a common purpose. This wasn't some weekend hobby. This was an organized response to an escalating crisis. We had skilled marksmen joining the ranks, people who could track movement through thick brush, hit a moving target from hundreds of yards away, and work silently under pressure. The energy was focused, serious. There was no loud joking, no careless bravadoonly strategy, teamwork, and a shared understanding that every step we took today might make life easier for a farmer tomorrow. We broke into groups, each assigned a zone. Radios crackled with short bursts of instruction. Drones launched overhead, feeding back live thermal footage. Scouts moved out ahead, identifying bedding areas and watering holes where hogs might be resting during the day. The sun hadn't even reached its peak when the first shot rang out, and from there, the momentum carried us through field after field. This wasn't just a hunt, it was a coordinated push to reclaim territory. What made it even more powerful was the sense of unity. People from different walks of life, some who had never met before, worked side by side, rifles slung, eyes alert, driven by the same goal: protect the land, protect the harvest, and push back against the growing tide of destruction. And though the hogs were many, today we were more, and we were ready. Off to the side, away from the main group, we had two hunters working solo, experienced, quiet, and confident in their craft. They weren't part of the larger formation or the drone-coordinated push. Instead, they chose to break off and sweep a wooded draw where hog activity had been spotted the day before. At first, we didn't think much of it. Sometimes, solo hunting means lower numbers, fewer chances, and a tougher time herding hogs into position. But not this time. As the rest of us focused on covering the wide open fields, a sudden crackle came over the radio's short bursts of communication, urgent but controlled. Then a voice, "We've got pigs down, multiple." Most of the time, our hunts take place under the scorching sun of summer dry fields, buzzing insects, and the distant shimmer of heat rising off the land. That's when the wild hogs are most active, tearing through cornfields and wallowing in muddy ditches to escape the heat. But today, things are different. Today, I'm taking you into the heart of winter, into a frozen, snow-covered landscape where everything changes, including the way we hunt. The ground is hard, the air sharp, and every breath turns to steam. Snow blankets the fields, covering trails, quieting footsteps, and amplifying every sound in the silence of cold. But it also offers us a powerful advantage: visibility. Unlike the camouflage they enjoy in warmer seasons, wild hogs in winter stand out like shadows on a white canvas. Their coarse, dark hair, perfect for blending into brush and dirt now, betrays them. Against the snowy backdrop, even the slightest movement draws attention. We no longer have to rely solely on tracks or damaged crops to locate them. From a distance, their black forms break the horizon. Even in the low light of winter dusk, thermal scopes light up their body heat with crystal clarity. Another advantage. With snow covering much of the underbrush, their hiding spots are limited. Gone are the thick green thickets and dense summer grasses that usually give them cover. In winter, they cluster near tree lines and rocky outcroppings, where the sun still reaches the ground and where they can burrow for warmth. That narrows our search. It lets us be more methodical, more focused. And once we find them, they have fewer escape routes of room to run, fewer places to disappear. But don't be fooled. Winter hunting is no walk in the park. The cold bites through gloves, weapons jam more easily, and navigating icy terrain adds a whole new layer of difficulty. Yet there's something thrilling about it moving through a silent world of snow, breath misting in the air, eyes scanning the frosted horizon for the dark figures that haunt these fields. It's a new kind of hunt, and today, the odds are in our favor. Whether under the blazing heat of summer or the biting chill of winter, our mission never changes. We hunt wild hogs to protect the lifeblood of this land, the farmers and their fields. This isn't a seasonal task. It's a year-round responsibility. In summer, we move through tall corn and dusty trails, sweating through our gear as we chase hogs across scorched earth and freshly plowed soil. The heat is relentless, but so are the hogs. They strike at night, using dense vegetation for cover, rooting through crops that took months to grow. We press on, not because it's easy, but because it's necessary. Every pig taken out in the summer means one less threat when harvest comes around. Some might question whether hunting wild hogs is the right thing to do. From the outside, it may seem harsh, even brutal. But out here, standing beside the farmers who live on the edge of this crisis every single day, you begin to understand the desperation that drives their choices. These aren't people who hunt for sport. They don't take joy in pulling the trigger. They're not chasing trophies, they're trying to survive. Season after season, they watch their crops, the very lifeblood of their families, get ripped apart overnight by cunning, relentless creatures. Fences are no match. Alarms don't stop them. Even traditional traps sometimes fail, because these hogs aren't just wild, they're smart. They learn, they adapt, and they keep coming back. So the farmers fight back the only way they can. They build stronger traps. They set up night vision cameras. They team up with hunters and wildlife officials. Some even learn to use drones, not because they want to, but because they have no other choice. Every option, every tool, every long night spent awake, it all comes from the same place. A deep, instinctive need to protect what little they have left, to shield their children's future, to hold on to a way of life that's been passed down through generations. And when you look into their tired eyes, when you stand beside them in a field littered with uprooted crops and hoof prints, the question changes. It's no longer about whether hunting wild hogs is right. It becomes, what else can they do? In this fight, morality meets reality in the dust and dirt of rural America. And it's only here shoulder to shoulder with the ones living through it that you begin to see the full picture. This isn't about vengeance. It's about survival. And sometimes that means making hard choices for the land, for the future, and for the right to sleep at night without fear. In many parts of Asia, wild boars are considered a species worthy of protection. In countries like Japan, South Korea, and regions of Southeast Asia, these animals are often seen as part of the natural heritage, sometimes even revered in folklore and in several areas. They're shielded by strict conservation laws. In national parks, they roam freely, monitored, and preserved as part of a delicate ecosystem. Governments invest resources into maintaining their populations, educating the public, and even issuing penalties for harming them. To many in those regions, the wild boar is a symbol of wilderness, a rare, resilient creature to be respected rather than feared. But halfway across the world, in the United States and parts of Europe, that image could not be more different. Here, wild hogs are not a treasured relic of the past. They are an invasive force, exploding in number and spreading faster than most authorities can control. In the US, alone, over 6 million feral swine now roam more than 40 states, damaging an estimated $2.5 billion worth of crops and property every year. Far from being preserved, they are actively hunted, trapped, and culled in massive operations involving landowners, wildlife agencies, and even aerial snipers. In places like Texas, it is not only legal but encouraged to hunt wild hogs year-round, day or night without limit. The contrast is striking. What one country views as rare and sacred, another sees as dangerous and destructive. But the difference lies not in the nature of the animal, but in the context of its presence. In Asia, wild boars live in balance with native forests and predators. In the US, their presence is a result of crossbreeding, human error, and unchecked expansion, turning them into a plague. Here, they don't just compete with native species, they overpower them. They don't merely live in the wild, they invade suburbs, destroy livelihoods, and upend ecosystems. And so, while some countries protect the wild boar as a symbol of nature's resilience, others battle it as an emblem of nature's fury gone unchecked. To truly understand how wild hogs came to overrun vast regions of the United States, we have to dig into the history, the mistakes that paved the way. The wild hog problem in America didn't happen overnight. In fact, it started centuries ago when early European settlers brought domestic pigs with them for food. Some escaped, adapted, and began to breed in the wild. But the real turning point came in the early 20th century, when Eurasian wild boars were intentionally imported and released in various states for sport hunting. The idea was simple: create a thrilling new game species for wealthy hunters to pursue. But what wasn't considered or perhaps underestimated was how quickly these boars would breed and how well they would adapt to American landscapes. When those Eurasian boars interbred with feral domestic pigs, a new hybrid emerged, larger, smarter, faster, and even more destructive. These super pigs didn't need pristine wilderness to survive. They thrived in swamps, forests, farmland, and even near cities. And they could reproduce at an alarming rate, so often having 2 litters a year, with up to a dozen piglets each time. With few natural predators and plenty of food and space, their numbers exploded. What made matters worse was a lack of early intervention. For years, the wild hog problem was viewed as a local nuisance rather than a national crisis. By the time wildlife authorities began to coordinate control efforts, the hogs had already spread across the South and into the Midwest and West. Their intelligence made trapping difficult. Their nocturnal habits made them hard to hunt, and their adaptability made nearly every conventional method of population control less effective than hoped. Today, the feral hog invasion is considered one of the most costly and complex wildlife management challenges in North America. And it all started with a few pigs, a bit of carelessness, and a country unprepared for just how fast nature can spiral out of control when given the chance. Although we didn't wipe out every last wild hog in today's hunt, we ended the day with a deep sense of purpose and even a touch of joy. The scale of the problem is massive, and we knew from the start that a single outing wouldn't solve it all. These animals are fast, cunning, and spread far and wide across the landscape. But that didn't stop us. Today wasn't about winning the war, it was about winning one battle at a time. And in the fields we walked, among the farmers we stood beside, we could see the difference. Crops that might have been destroyed tonight are still standing. Fences that could have been torn apart are intact. And families who had grown used to sleepless nights, worrying about the sound of rooting and grunting just beyond their homes tonight, they'll rest a little easier. What we did today matters. It's easy to get discouraged when the threat is so large and relentless, but every sounder pushed back, every hog removed, is one less that will trample a crop or ruin a season's work. And sometimes that's enough. There's something rewarding in knowing you stood between chaos and someone's livelihood even just for a night. The handshakes, the nods of quiet thanks from farmers, the shared silence as the last rays of sunlight fade over a calmer field, those are the moments that stick with us. We'll be back. The fight isn't over, and neither is our commitment. But for now, we pack up our gear with a quiet sense of satisfaction. We didn't finish the job, but we helped. And in this fight, even small victories count. We understand that what we do doesn't sit well with everyone. For many people, especially animal lovers, the idea of hunting wild animals is upsetting, even offensive. The sight of a rifle, the sound of a shot, the image of a fallen creaturette can all feel deeply wrong, even cruel. And truthfully, we don't expect applause. We know that to those who view wildlife through a lens of protection and compassion, our work might seem harsh or even heartless. But for those of us out here on the front lines of an ecological crisis, the reality is more complicated. We don't hunt because we enjoy killing. We hunt because balance demands it. Feral hogs are not part of the natural ecosystem in North America. They're an invasive species introduced by humans that now threatens the very fabric of both nature and agriculture. They uproot native plants, drive out indigenous wildlife, erode soil, contaminate water sources, and destroy the hard-earned crops that feed entire communities. Their population explodes unchecked, with no natural predators to keep them in balance. If left alone, they don't simply coexist, they dominate. So we step in not with hate, but with duty. Because protecting nature sometimes means making difficult choices. Sometimes it means removing one species to preserve the survival of many others. Sometimes it means upsetting the ideal picture of wilderness in order to defend the real one that's under siege. And above all, it means protecting the lives and livelihoods of people who depend on the land to survive, families who work it, animals who live on it, ecosystems that depend on harmony. We don't ask for celebration, but we do ask for understanding. This isn't cruelty, it's responsibility. And if doing this means a child grows up with a harvest to eat, a farmer sleeps with I remember that misty morning like it was yesterday. I was standing on a ridge, looking out over the cornfields below, except they didn't look like cornfields anymore. They looked like they'd been hit by a tornado. But it wasn't a storm that did this. It was a herd of wild hogs, big and mean, tearing through the crops like they owned the place. Rows of corn flattened, sweet potatoes rooted up and tossed around, and muddy hoof prints stomped into every inch of the soil. The stench of them still hung in the air, rank, musky, and wild like something straight out of a nightmare. These hogs ain't like the ones your granddaddy used to raise in a pen. They breed like rabbits and fight like hell. One sow can drop a litter of 6 to 10 piglets twice a year, and before you know it, you've got 100 of them roaming your land, ripping up everything in sight. It's not just the crops. They'll kill chickens, run off livestock, and I've even seen a big boar charge a porch fence like he was ready to move in. Folks around here can't sleep sound anymore. Every night it's dogs barking, flashlights waving, folks yelling out into the dark, and every morning is more damage, more destruction. But we weren't out there for sport. This was about survival, about defending our land, our crops, and our way of life. Wild hogs are smart, dangerous, and relentless. But so are we. And if they think they can take over our fields without a fight, well, they picked the wrong farm. We're ready. And we won't be backing down. One shot, right behind the shoulder. The boar let out a deep grunt, staggered sideways, and collapsed into the dirt with a thud that rattled my bones. No flailing, no second wind, just down. Clean, quick. Then I saw it. Big boar, maybe 250 pounds. Black and scarred from years of fighting. It froze when our eyes met, and for a split second, it felt like a showdown. I raised my rifle slow, aimed just behind the shoulder, and squeezed the trigger. One clean shot. The beast let out a grunt, stumbled sideways, then dropped like a tree. After the first hog, things moved fast. The dogs kept picking up fresh scent trails, leading us straight to the herd. With our team split into smaller groups, we managed to corner several of them with no way out. Everyone held their position. Every dog stayed locked on target. When the hogs charged, our rifles were already up. One clean shot, quick and precise. No yelling, no chaos. We moved like a tight, well-oiled machine. At one point, 3 or 4 hogs came crashing through the brush, eyes wild, ready to break through. But the dogs held the line, fearless. We kept calm, took our shots. Each hog dropped in turn. No one panicked. No one got hurt. We didn't celebrate. Just a few nods exchanged as we dragged the bodies off the trail. No wasted words. Every hog taken down meant safer fields for our families. We knew why we were out there, and we weren't stopping anytime soon. We arrived at a new location stretch of dense woods near an abandoned creek bed. Locals said this place was crawling with hogs, especially the big ones. The kind that could tear through a fence like paper and plow through a field in minutes. Right away, we could tell this spot was different. Tracks were everywhere. Deep prints in the mud, fresh droppings, and trees with bark stripped clean where the hogs had rubbed their thick hides. The dogs got excited, noses twitching, tails stiff. They knew what was out here, so did we. This place wasn't just another stop, it was a hot spot. And if the signs were right, we were about to go head to head with some of the biggest hogs we'd seen yet. We checked our gear, tightened our grips, and got ready. The real hunt was about to begin. The deeper we hunted, the more hogs we found, and the more destruction they left behind. It was like every step forward uncovered another sign of chaos. Fields torn to pieces, saplings snapped in half, roots ripped clean from the ground. In one spot, we found a garden completely wiped out, fence knocked down, soil turned over like a plow had gone through. But it wasn't a machine, it was hogs. Big ones, dozens of them, maybe more. The dogs were on edge, growling low, sensing how fresh everything was. We didn't have to say it out loud, we all felt it. This wasn't just a nuisance, this was an invasion. The hogs weren't passing through anymore, they were taking over. Each new track, each grunt from the brush, reminded us how dangerous they could be, not just to crops but to us. They were bold, fast, and fearless. And there were more of them than we'd ever guessed. This was no longer just a hunt, it was a fight to take back the land. Wild hogs may be big, they may be mean, fast, and full of rage, but we're not afraid. Not now, not ever. They can charge with those sharp tusks, try to scatter our dogs, try to scare us off with all that weight and fury, but we stand our ground. We hold the line, because we're not out here for sport, we're out here for the farmers. For the families who wake up to ruined crops, busted fences, and empty chicken coops. We're not backing down, not while they're tearing up our land. Let the hogs come. Let them roar through the trees and stomp the ground. We'll meet them head on every time. One by one, we'll bring them down. Every shot fired, every trap sprung, every step we take is all for the folks counting on us to put an end to this. Watch us. We'll wipe them out. All of them. This land belongs to the people who work it, not the beasts that try to destroy it. After another stretch of hunting, we decided to call it for the day. The sun was dipping low, casting long shadows through the trees, and the dogs were starting to slow down. We'd taken down a few more hogs, tracked fresh trails, and marked new hotspots. It was a solid day's work, but tomorrow had to be better. We gathered around a small fire near the trucks, rifles leaning against trees, dogs curled up at our feet. No one talked much at first, just the sound of gear being cleaned, boots scraping dirt, and coffee being poured. Then, one by one, we started breaking down the day. What worked, what didn't, where we saw the biggest tracks, where the dogs hesitated, where we needed more coverage. Maps came out. We pointed, circled, argued a little, agreed a lot. Tomorrow, we try a new formation split into 2 teams, push from both sides, hit them where they don't expect it, maybe set a few traps overnight, maybe bring extra rounds. Everyone had a role, and everyone took it seriously. Out here, strategy matters just as much as aim, and tonight, we plan to be ready for whatever came next. The next day, the weather was perfect. Clear skies stretched overhead, and the early sunlight filtered through the treetops, casting golden streaks across the damp forest floor. The air was crisp and cool, with that earthy scent of morning dew and old leaves. We were up early, geared up and ready to go, spirits high and energy buzzing through the team. Even the dogs seemed to sense it tails wagging, ears up, eager to get moving. We checked our weapons, strapped on our vests, loaded our packs, and rolled out. It didn't take long. About 30 minutes into the western Woodson area, folks had warned us about we started seeing the signs. Fresh droppings, deep tracks, overturned brush, and that strong musky smell. The dogs picked it up fast. We split into 2 groups and moved in, just like we planned the night before, tight, quiet, covering every angle. Then the action hit. A massive boar, black and thick as a truck tire, tore out of the undergrowth. No hesitation. It charged straight at us like a battering ram, but it ran into our trap. One clean shot to the chest dropped it after a few stumbling steps. Heavy thud, silence. Then we heard more movement. We took down 3 more before noon, 2 big sows, and an old battle-scarred boar. These weren't timid hogs. They were bold, ready to fight, not run. But we held the line. The dogs kept them contained, and our shots were sharp. Every move we made felt solid. No one got hurt. That's what counted. By midday, we dragged the hogs out to the edge of the woods and laid them out. Lined up in the sun, their bodies told the story etch one big, dangerous, and now out of the fight. We were drenched in sweat, hands stained with dirt and blood, but our eyes said it all. This was a win. Another successful hunt, another step toward keeping the farm safe. But deep down, we all knew this wasn't the end. Not yet. We'd be back tomorrow, and we'd be ready. We wrapped up the hunt with a solid haul several big hogs, each one heavier and meaner than the last. As we stood there looking at the pile, tired but proud, it really sank in. We were making a difference. Every hog we took down meant fewer crops destroyed, fewer sleepless nights for the farmers, and a little more peace for the folks who work this land day in and day out. Yeah, hunting wild hogs isn't easy. It's risky, it's rough. There are moments when things get real tense, when you can feel the danger breathing down your neck. These animals aren't just big, they're smart, fast, and don't go down without a fight. And every trip out there means pushing through thick brush, dodging tusks, and staying alert every second. But even with the sweat, the bruises, and the close calls, will keep going because this matters, because someone has to do it. And we've got the grit, the gear, and the guts to face it head on. We packed up as the sun dipped low, dogs resting quietly by our feet. Another hunt behind us, another one coming soon. We'll be ready. The land needs defending, and we're not backing down. Not now. Not ever. Feral hogs are one of the most destructive invasive species in the United States. They're not native to this land, and ever since they took hold, the damage has been non-stop. These animals tear through farmland like a storm, rooting up crops, destroying fences, contaminating water sources, and even attacking livestock. They don't stop at the fields either. There are reports of hogs getting into people's yards, tearing up lawns, knocking over feeders, and in some cases, even damaging homes. They breed fast, adapt quickly, and travel in packs. One small group can turn into dozens within a season, and their path of destruction stretches across millions of acres nationwide. For farmers and rural families, this isn't just a nuisance, it's a threat to their livelihood, their safety, and their way of life. That's why hog hunting isn't just a hobby, it's a necessity. Every hog taken down is a win for the land, a win for the crops, for the animals, for the people who live and work out here. It's about protecting what matters, and until these hogs are gone or at least under control, we'll keep hunting, because if we don't, no one else will. Hog hunting in the United States has long been a subject of heated debate. Some people support it, seeing it as a practical solution to a destructive invasive species. Others oppose it, fearing cruelty, lack of regulation, and potential risks to public safety. We understand both sides. We've heard the arguments, the criticism even, from folks who've never set foot in a cornfield or walked through woods torn apart by wild hogs. But for those of us who face the problem head on, it's not just a question of right or wrong, it's reality. Feral hogs don't wait for public opinion. They don't care about laws or ethics. They breed fast, destroy land, and take over every inch they can. One herd can wipe out a crop overnight. They rip through vegetable gardens, collapse animal pens, and sometimes even wander right into someone's yard. One farmer lost 3 goats in a single night by morning. All that was left was blood and a broken fence. We don't hunt for fun. We don't celebrate dragging a 300-pound hog out of the brush. Every trigger pull is a risk. These animals charge, tear through brush, and fight to the last breath. Sometimes the dogs get hurt. Sometimes we do. There's nothing easy about it. Still, we go on, because if we don't, who will? People far from the problem can debate all they want, but farmers don't have that luxury. They need their land. They need their harvest. And they need someone to stand between them and the threat in the woods. We're not trying to be heroes. We're just folks who live close to the land, who know the sound of a twig snapping in the dark, who read tracks in the mud like a map. And when the dogs bark before sunrise, we know it's time to get moving again. The debate will go on. So will the hogs. And as long as they're still out there tearing through what folks have worked hard to build, we'll be out there too. Chasing down cunning wild hogs on foot is only part of the battle. As these animals grow smarter and more elusive, we've had to adapt, and that means bringing in bigger tools. In some areas, especially down south where the hog population is exploding, ground tactics just aren't enough anymore. That's when we take to the skies. Helicopter hunting has become one of the most effective ways to manage large groups of wild hogs. From above, we can spot entire sounders moving through open fields or thick brush places, nearly impossible to access on foot. While one team stays on the ground tracking signs and driving the hogs out of cover, another team is airborne, rifles ready, communicating by radio to close in from above. It might sound extreme, but it works. These animals are fast, smart, and aggressive. On foot, they can outrun you. They'll split up, vanish into the brush, or double back behind you. But from a helicopter, there's nowhere to hide. With trained pilots and sharpshooters, we can drop multiple hogs before they even know what's coming. And everyone taken down is one less tearing up farmland, threatening livestock, or putting people in danger. It's not cheap, it's not easy, but when the goal is to protect the land, you use every tool you've got, and sometimes that means trading boots on the ground for blades in the air. Hunting wild hogs by helicopter is, overall, an effective method, but it doesn't come without serious trade-offs. There's no question that aerial hunting allows us to cover a lot of ground quickly and locate entire sounders that would otherwise stay hidden in thick brush. From the air, we have a clear view and the speed to act fast. In the right conditions, it can drastically reduce hog numbers in a short time. But it's not a perfect solution. First, helicopters burn through fuel fast. Long hours in the air add up quickly, not just in fuel costs, but also in maintenance and manpower. Every flight needs a skilled pilot, spotters, and shooters who know exactly what they're doing. And flying low to the ground, near the tree lines where hogs usually hide, brings real danger. One wrong move near a tall pine or sudden gust of wind, and you're risking more than just a missed shot. Crashes aren't common, but they're always a risk. Then there's the cost. Helicopter hunting is expensive, really expensive. Between the aircraft rental, fuel, crew, and logistics, most landowners can't afford to do it on their own. It's a tool often used by larger ranches or government-backed operations, not something the average farmer can call up for weekend use. So while it's effective, it's not always practical. It's another option in the toolbox, but for most folks, boots on the ground, dogs at your side, and a steady aim are still the backbone of the fight. Helicopters help, but they can't replace the grit and grind of the hunters who live the battle every day. To make sure we take out as many hogs as possible before planting season, we don't stick to daylight hours. When the stakes are high, when farmers are counting on us to keep their fields safe, we hunt day and night. Tonight is one of those nights. The air is colder, the forest quieter. Under the moonlight, every sound carries farther, every shadow feels alive. But we've done this before. We move in silence, flashlights covered, rifles ready, dogs just ahead of us, their eyes glowing faintly in the dark. They know what to do, so do we. Night hunts are different. You can't rely on sight. You rely on instincts and sound, on the rhythm of your team, on the way the dogs move when they catch a scent. The hogs are more active now, rooting around under cover of darkness, thinking they're safe, but they're not. We've tracked them through thickets, along creek beds, through open fields with frost crunching under our boots. It's tense, it's cold, but when you hear that low grunt in the distance when the dogs start pulling harder on the lead, you know it's go time. We may be tired, we may be sore, but we're not stopping. Not tonight, not while the hogs are still out there. The farmers are sleeping, their fields are quiet, and we're the ones making sure it stays that way. Tonight, it seems the hogs picked the wrong field to raid. From the moment we stepped into the woods, everything clicked. The dogs were sharp, the air was still, and the signs were fresh. We moved fast and quiet, no wasted motion, no second guessing. The hogs didn't stand a chance. One by one, we tracked them, cornered them, and brought them down clean. Some tried to run, some tried to charge, but every time, we were ready. By midnight, the difference was clear. What started as a quiet forest now held the proof of our effort, dozens of hogs taken down, the threat thinned out like never before. This wasn't luck. This was hours of training, planning, and hard work paying off. Every long night, every scraped arm, every silent approach through thorns and muted, all led to this. We stood together under the cold stars, rifles cooling, dogs panting, and looked over what we'd accomplished. The hogs had met their match tonight, and we knew deep down that the farms would be safer come morning. It was worth it, every bit of it. Hunting wild hogs in the summer is already tough, but when winter rolls in, it gets a whole lot harder. The cold cuts deep. Your fingers go numb faster than you can reload. The ground is frozen, the brush brittle, and every step echoes louder than you'd like. The hogs move less, stay hidden longer, and when they do come out, it's usually in the thickest cover they can find. Tracking them on foot becomes nearly impossible. No fresh mud for footprints, no soft ground to show where they've rooted. Running them down, forget it. The terrain's too rough, and the cold drains your energy fast. Even the dogs struggle in freezing temperatures. Their nose is less reliable, their bodies needing more rest. That's when we change tactics. We stop chasing and start watching. We set up on high ground, scan the open fields, and wait. Rifle sighted in, scopes cleaned, breath held back behind masks to keep the lenses clear. When the hogs finally emerge, usually just before dawn or late into the night, we take our shots from a distance. No noise, no movement, just one clean pull of the trigger. It's a different kind of hunt, slower, more patient, but just as serious and just as necessary. Winter may slow us down, but it won't stop us. The hogs don't take a season off, and neither do we. No matter how tough hog hunting gets, we keep going. The cold, the long nights, the danger, it all fades when we remember what we're fighting for. Out there in the fields, there are farmers who've worked the same land for generations. They wake up before sunrise, plant every seed with care, and pray for rain, for sun, for one good season. But all it takes is one night of hogs tearing through their crops to undo months of hard work. One herd can wipe out an entire section corn, peanuts, beans, gone in hours. That's what keeps us moving. That's what pushes us to load up our gear, head into the woods, and track these animals through thick brush, freezing cold, and endless miles. We're not just hunters, we're protectors. We stand between destruction and a farmer's chance at a good harvest. And when the going gets hard, when our boots are soaked, our hands are frozen, and we haven't slept in a day, we remind ourselves why we do it. We picture barns full of grain, fields standing tall, and families sitting down to dinner with food grown by their own hands. That's the reward. Not trophies, not glory, just knowing that somewhere a farmer gets one more chance at a good season because we showed up and we didn't give up. Wild hogs are multiplying at an alarming rate, and their impact on the environment is nothing short of devastating. These animals breed fast, real fast. One sow can produce 2 litters a year, with 6 to 10 piglets each time. That kind of growth means a small group can turn into a full-blown invasion in just a few seasons. And once they've moved in, the damage begins almost immediately. They tear through farmland like living bulldozers, rooting up crops, destroying irrigation systems, and flattening anything in their path. But it's not just the fields. They rip up native plants, destroy nesting grounds, and outcompete native wildlife for food. Their digging erodes soil, pollutes water sources with waste, and turns once healthy ecosystems into torn up wastelands. What's worse, they're smart and highly adaptable. They can live in swamps, forests, grassland 7, right on the edge of suburban neighborhoods. No place is truly safe once hogs get a foothold. And with few natural predators, nothing is slowing them down but us. Every day we delay, they spread farther. Every season they go unchecked. More land gets ruined. If we don't act now and keep acting, we risk losing not just crops, but balance in entire ecosystems. This is more than a hunting mission. It's a race against destruction. Even though many people have seen firsthand the destruction caused by wild hogs, there are still some who defend them, speaking out against hunting and trapping efforts led by farmers and landowners. They argue from a place of emotion, seeing the hogs as animals in need of protection, not realizing or choosing to ignore the scale of the damage. These aren't misunderstood creatures quietly living in the woods. They're an invasive force, tearing through crops, destroying native habitats, and costing the country billions in damages every year. Yet somehow, there are still voices calling for restraint, even as the ground is torn up beneath their feet. Some protest the traps, calling them cruel. Others criticize hunting, labeling it unnecessary or inhumane. But they don't walk through ruined cornfields. They don't have to explain to their families why the harvest came up short again. They don't see the livestock injured, the land stripped bare, the forest turned upside down. We respect wildlife, we respect balance. But wild hogs aren't part of the balance anymore, they're breaking it. And when people stand in the way of the very efforts meant to stop them, it makes the fight that much harder. This isn't about sport, it's about survival for the land, for the animals that belong here, and for the people who depend on the soil beneath their boots. They protest because they haven't lost anything. It's easy to speak out from a distance when your yard isn't torn up, when your crops aren't eaten overnight, when your animals aren't injured, and your income doesn't depend on what survives in the ground. For farmers though, it's a different story. They work sun up to sundown, season after season, pouring sweat into every row they plant. And when harvest time finally comes, it should be a reward for months of hard labor, not a scene of devastation left behind by wild hogs. But that's exactly what happens. Entire fields destroyed in one night, livestock hurt or scattered, equipment damaged, fences ripped apart. It's not just frustrating, it's heartbreaking. And it's not a rare event anymore. It's happening more and more across more states, to more families. People who oppose hog hunting or trapping often do so from a place of comfort. They haven't paid the price. They haven't walked through a ruined field with nothing left to show for a year's work. Farmers don't want to be hunters. They want to grow food, raise animals, and support their families. But when a destructive, invasive species leaves them no choice, they fight back. The criticism stings, but it won't stop us. Because the farmers aren't just defending their land, they're defending their lives. And we're standing with them. we will always stand with the farmers. They're out there every single day, rain or shine, heat or cold working, the land from sunup to sundown. They don't complain, they don't take shortcuts. They just put their heads down and do what needs to be done, growing the food that feeds our towns, our families, our country. On those wide, open fields, they fight their own quiet battle against time, weather, and hard soil. They shouldn't have to fight a war against wild hogs too, and certainly not alone. That's why we're here. We've seen the damage. We've walked through fields that used to be full of life, now torn to pieces. We've heard the stories harvest wiped out overnight, livestock injured, hopes shattered, and every time we hear it, our resolve grows stronger. Because we know these people, we know how hard they work, and we know they deserve better. We can't sit back and let these invasive animals push them to the edge. We won't let their effort go to waste. Every hunt, every night spent tracking, every mile we walk through brush and mood it's for them, we carry the weight of their work with us, and we'll keep fighting until the threat is gone. We don't do this for glory. We do it because it's right, because the farmers are the backbone of this land and we'll never leave them behind. Every hunt is a gamble with our lives. Wild hogs aren't just a nuisance, they're flat out dangerous. These animals are strong, fast, and aggressive. They don't back down when they see a human. In fact, many of them charge. Their tusks can slice deep, their weight can knock a grown man off his feet, and when they come at you full speed through thick brush, there's barely time to react. This isn't like hunting deer or rabbits. This is combat. We've had close call shunners knocked down, dogs gored, rifles barely raised in time. You can do everything right and still find yourself face to face with a 300-pound hog ready to fight to the death. And out there in the woods, there's no backup, no safety net, just you, your team, and the will to stand your ground. But we keep going, because while the risk is real, so is the reason we do it. We're not out there chasing trophies. We're out there to protect. Every time we load our gear, we know what's at stake. We don't take it lightly, but we don't let fear stop us. These hogs don't fear us, but maybe, just maybe, it's time they started. Hunting wild hogs isn't something you just wake up one day and decide to do. It takes experience, real, hard-earned experience, and every one of us had to put in the time to get there. These animals are smart, unpredictable, and tough. If you don't know what you're doing, you're just asking to get hurt. We've trained for this. We've practiced tracking in all kinds of terrain, mud, thickets, dry fields, riverbanks. We've studied their behavior, learned how they move, how they scatter when they're startled, how they circle back when you least expect it. We know when to press in, and more importantly, when to pull back. Timing matters, so does control. We train with our rifles until every shot feels like instinct. We drill with our dogs, making sure they don't chase too far or break formation. We learn to read the land, read each other, and react fast. Because out there, one mistake can cost you. It took years to build this team, years of trial, failure, close calls, and steady improvement. Every scar tells a story. Every successful hunt proves that preparation pays off. This isn't luck. This is skill. This is discipline. And it's the only way to hunt a creature as dangerous as the wild hog. Many of us have scarsome you can see, some you can't from run-ins with wild hogs. This isn't just a job that sounds dangerous on paper. For several of us, it's gotten real fast. There are men in our crew who've been knocked down, gored, even dragged. One of our best trackers took a tusk to the leg years ago. It missed an artery by inches. He still limps a little, but he never quit. Another had a sow charge him out of the brush so fast, he barely had time to raise his rifle. It slammed into his chest and broke 2 ribs before the dogs pulled it off. He was back in the woods a month later. These animals don't give warning. They don't bluff. When they feel cornered or even just surprised, they come at you with full force. They're low to the ground, heavy, and fast. And they know how to use the terrain to their advantage. Trees, brush, darkness, they use it all. So when we say we respect the hog, we mean it. Not because we admire them, but because we've bled because of them. We've paid the price to understand just how serious this is. That's why we don't take shortcuts. That's why we train, why we plan, why we work together. Our lives depend on it, but sometimes they really do. No matter what, as long as there are wild hogs or any threat tearing up the land, you'll find us there. We don't back down. We don't look the other way. When others walk past the damage or say, "It's not my problem," we're already gearing up because we know what's at stake. We've seen the fields ruined, the fences broken, the livestock hurt. We've seen the look on a farmer's face when a year of hard work is gone overnight. We're not in this for glory or thanks. We're in it because it has to be done. Because someone has to stand between destruction and the people who work this land with their hands and their hearts. That someone is us. Rain, cold, heat, day or night, it doesn't matter. Wherever the threat moves, we follow. Wherever the ground is torn, we step in. We are hunters, protectors, and problem solvers. And until the last hog is gone,